The breaking point. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the massive crystalline windows of the Galactic Assembly's orbital station, watching the dance of ships in the distance. Each vessel represented a different species, a different civilization that had found its place in the great cosmic community. All except humanity, it seemed. The assembly chamber buzzed with the usual cacophony of translated conversations and diplomatic pleasantries. Sarah checked her neural interface one last time, reviewing the data that had cost 3 deep space research teams their lives to obtain. This would be humanity's final attempt to make the assembly listen. "The floor recognizes the representative of Terra," announced High Chancellor Vextall, their bioluminescent patterns shifting in what Sarah had learned to recognize as mild annoyance. Sarah's boots echoed against the polished floor as she approached the central podium. The chamber's perfect acoustics carried the sound to every corner, where representatives of over 200 species waited with varying degrees of patience. "Esteemed members of the Assembly," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of what she was about to present. 3 standard months ago, our deep space research vessels detected unusual quantum signatures in the outer rim. These signatures matched theoretical models of space-time manipulation on a scale we've never encountered. A ripple of murmurs spread through the chamber. Sarah activated the holographic display, showing the complex data patterns her teams had recorded. "Our analysis suggests these signatures are consistent with massive ships dropping in and out of previously unknown subspace layers, ships that don't match any known species technology." "Another human conspiracy theory," drawled Ambassador Krill of the Centaurian Collective, their facial tentacles writhing in amusement. "Like the supposed dormant AI threat in the Carina sector last cycle." Sarah's jaw tightened. The AI threat had been real, and only humanity's independent intervention had prevented a catastrophe. Not that the Assembly had acknowledged that fact. "This is different. We've lost 3 research teams investigating these anomalies. The last team managed to transmit visual data before their destruction." The holographic display shifted, showing the final moments recorded by the research vessel Horizon. A massive shape emerged from what appeared to be a tear in space itself, its surface seeming to bend light around it. The recording ended in static. "Special effects, clearly," commented another representative, triggering scattered laughter throughout the chamber. High Chancellor Vextall raised their primary appendages for silence. "Ambassador Chen, while we appreciate Terra's enthusiasm for security matters, the Assembly has more pressing concerns. The trade dispute between the Proxima Coalition and the Rigel Confederacy requires our immediate attention." Sarah felt something snap inside her. 15 years of diplomatic restraint, of playing by the Assembly's rules, of watching humanity's warnings go unheeded, all crashed down in a single moment. "Computer," she said clearly, "initiate Protocol Omega. Authorization Chen 77 Delta." The chamber's lights flickered as the Assembly's systems recognized her command. On every display, a countdown appeared. 48 hours. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded Vextall, their bioluminescence flashing in alarm. "As per Article 17 of the Assembly Charter, humanity is formally withdrawing from the Galactic Assembly," Sarah announced, her voice carrying a finality that silenced the chamber. "You have 48 hours to remove all Assembly personnel and assets from human space. After that time, our borders will be sealed." Chaos erupted in the chamber. Representatives shouted questions and protests, some in their native languages as their translation devices struggled to keep up with their agitation. "You cannot do this." Krill's tentacles had gone pale. "The economic implications alone." "We can. And we are," Sarah interrupted. "For 15 years, we've tried to be good citizens of the galaxy. We've shared our innovations, respected your traditions, and tried to warn you of genuine threats. In return, you've dismissed us as paranoid children." She turned to face the entire chamber, her voice growing stronger. "Humanity will no longer stand by and watch as genuine threats are ignored in favor of political convenience. We'll take whatever measures necessary to protect ourselves and any others who seek our help. As she walked toward the exit, High Chancellor Vextol found their voice. If you leave now, there will be consequences. The Assembly's protection. Sarah stopped at the doorway, looking back one final time. Your protection. The Assembly couldn't even protect the Arcturus colony from pirates last cycle. We warned you about the vulnerabilities in their defense system 6 months before the attack. Her expression softened slightly. I truly hope we're wrong about the quantum signatures. But if we're not, well, you know where to find us. The doors slid shut behind her with a decisive hiss. In the corridor, her aide, Marcus Wong, fell into step beside her. The evacuation orders are already being transmitted, he reported. All human ships and citizens will begin immediate withdrawal from assembly space. The border defense grid is standing by for activation. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of history settling on her shoulders. Send a message to the council back home. Tell them it's done. Operation Dark Forest is now in effect. As their shuttle departed the assembly station, Sarah watched the glittering edifice recede into the distance. Humanity had tried to be part of this grand galactic community, but perhaps they were always meant for a different path. The real work was about to begin. Silent preparation. The massive holographic display in Earth's Strategic Command Center showed thousands of points of light, each representing a human vessel or installation. Fleet Admiral Jackson Rivera watched as another cluster of dots changed from yellow to green, indicating completed upgrades. Project Shadowveil is at 87% completion, reported Captain Diana Martinez, her dark eyes fixed on the readouts scrolling across her neural interface. All major colonies have their quantum shrouds in place. We're effectively invisible to standard assembly scanning technology. 6 months had passed since humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Assembly. While the galaxy's diplomatic channels buzzed with speculation and criticism about humanity's paranoid retreat, the reality was far different from what anyone outside human space could imagine. What's the status on the Prometheus initiative? Jackson asked, zooming in on the Arcturus sector where their largest shipyards operated continuously. The first wave of Sentinel-class vessels is complete, Diana replied, bringing up the specifications. Quantum-locked hull plating, dark matter drives, and AI combat systems that make assembly tech look primitive. We've learned a lot since leaving their restrictions behind. Jackson nodded, remembering how the assembly had always pushed back against human AI development, citing ancient treaties and supposed ethical concerns. Now they understood why. The assembly's own AI attempts had led to disasters they'd hidden from younger species. Sir, a young lieutenant called out, we're picking up unusual activity at the edge of assembly space. Pattern matches the quantum signatures we detected before our withdrawal. The main display shifted, showing a region of space near the outer rim. The energy readings were stronger now, more frequent. Whatever was coming was getting closer. They still haven't detected it, Diana said quietly, checking the intercepted assembly communications. Their sensors aren't calibrated for quantum-level distortions. They're completely blind to what's approaching. Jackson moved to the central command platform, his expression grim. Begin Phase 2 of the Dark Forest Protocol. All civilian ships are to maintain radio silence. Military vessels will switch to quantum entanglement communication only. Let's disappear completely. Throughout human space, cities descended underground, shield generators hummed to life, and military installations vanished beneath quantum shrouds. To the outside galaxy, it would appear as if humanity had simply gone dark, retreating into isolation. The reality was far different. In a secure facility beneath the Martian surface, Dr. Elena Rossi supervised the final tests of the Lazarus system. The massive quantum computer complex represented humanity's greatest achievement, an AI defense network that could predict and counter threats across multiple dimensions of spacetime. The simulations are complete, Elena announced to the assembled military leadership. Lazarus has run 10 million scenarios based on the quantum signatures we've detected. In 99.7% of outcomes, The assembly falls within 3 months of first contact with the unknown force. And humanity's chances? Admiral Rivera's hologram asked. Elena smiled slightly. That depends entirely on whether the assembly swallows its pride and asks for help before it's too late. Lazarus gives us good odds of survival either way, but the casualty projections. She trailed off, letting the implications sink in. In orbit around Jupiter, the first of humanity's new Sentinel-class battleships completed its shakedown cruise. The RSS Defiant was unlike anything the Galaxy had seen, a perfect fusion of human innovation and AI optimization. Its quantum-locked hull could shrug off the strongest assembly weapons, while its dark matter drive allowed it to slip between the layers of reality itself. Commander Sarah Chen, recently promoted from her diplomatic role, stood on the Defiant's bridge, watching her crew run battle drills. The assembly would barely recognize their former ambassador now, dressed in the sleek black uniform of the Human Defense Force. Message from Strategic Command. Her AI interface announced privately. The quantum signatures are intensifying. Estimated 2 months until whatever's out there reaches assembly space. Sarah acknowledged the update, feeling a mix of vindication and dread. They had been right about the threat, but that knowledge brought no joy. The assembly's ignorance would cost lives, perhaps entire species. Continue battle drills, she ordered. Focus on quantum space combat scenarios. When the assembly finally realizes what they're facing, we'll need to be ready. As human space prepared for war, the assembly continued its business as usual. Trade disputes, minor border conflicts, and political maneuvering occupied their attention. Only a few of the more perceptive species noticed that their long-range probes near human territory had stopped reporting back, or that strange energy readings occasionally flickered at the edge of their sensor range. In her private quarters aboard the Defiant, Sarah reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The assembly had finally noticed that some of their outer colonies were going dark, communications ceasing without warning or distress calls. But true to form, they attributed it to technical malfunctions or local unrest. They're still not ready to face the truth, she murmured to herself, watching another colony marker disappear from the tactical display. But they will be soon. And when they are. The Defiant's quantum sensors pinged, detecting another massive distortion at the edge of known space. This one was larger than any they'd seen before. The storm was about to break. The storm arrives. The Galactic Assembly's grand chamber had never been so silent. On the central display, feeds from a dozen worlds showed the same horrifying scene. Massive ships emerging from tiers in spacetime, their crystalline hulls absorbing weapons fire as if it were nothing more than light rain. High Chancellor Vexel's bioluminescence had faded to a dull gray as they watched the Rigel Defense Fleet, pride of the assembly military, reduced to debris in mere minutes. The unknown vessels moved with impossible precision, each shot finding critical systems that shouldn't have been visible to their sensors. The Proxima colonies have gone dark, announced a junior aide, their voice trembling. No response to any communications. The quantum distortions are blocking all standard frequencies. Ambassador Krill's tentacles writhed in agitation. How did they penetrate our defense network so easily? These systems were supposed to be impregnable. They knew exactly where to hit us, growled General Tax of the Assembly Defense Force. Every weakness, every blind spot. It's as if they'd been studying us for months. The chamber fell silent as realization dawned. Months ago, a human research team had died trying to warn them about these very quantum signatures. In the command center of the Assembly's capital station, chaos reigned. The attackers had revealed themselves simultaneously across dozens of sectors, overwhelming the Assembly's ability to coordinate a response. Their technology seemed to operate on principles that defied known physics. New contact, shouted a sensor operator. Massive quantum distortion forming directly outside the station. The main viewport lit up as reality itself seemed to tear open. Through the breach emerged a vessel that dwarfed even the assembly station. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, patterns of light dancing across its hull in hypnotic sequences. This is Arctian nexus of the quantum collective, a voice echoed through every communication system, its harmonics inducing an instinctive sense of dread. Your space-time continuum has been deemed suitable for harvesting. Resistance is anticipated and futile. As if to emphasize the point, a casual gesture from the massive ship sent the assembly's outer defense ring collapsing in on itself, crushed by forces that shouldn't exist in normal space. Send the distress call, High Chancellor Vextal ordered, their pride finally breaking. To everyone, to anyone who will listen. Across assembly space, the message repeated, "This is the Galactic Assembly. We are under attack by an unknown force wielding impossible weapons. Our defenses are failing. To any species capable of rendering aid, we beg for your assistance." The message echoed across the quantum frequencies, reaching dying colonies and fleeing ships. Most species who received it were already fighting for survival themselves. But in one region of space, sensors that the assembly didn't know existed picked up their plea. Aboard the RSS Defiant, Commander Sarah Chen allowed herself a small, sad smile. They finally learned to ask for help. "Patch me through to Admiral Rivera." The Admiral's hologram appeared instantly. They're taking heavier losses than even Lazarus predicted. The quantum collective is using technologies we've never seen before, but not technologies we haven't prepared for, Sarah countered. Everything they're doing, the space-time manipulation, the quantum-level attacks, it all fits the patterns we detected. We built our defenses specifically to counter these capabilities. Rivera nodded grimly. True, but revealing ourselves means exposing everything we've developed. The assembly will know how far ahead of them we've really gotten. With respect, sir, I don't think their pride matters anymore. The collective is harvesting entire star systems for quantum energy, if we don't stop them here. Agreed. Rivera's expression hardened. Operation Dark Forest ends now. Deploy the fleet. Show them what humanity has been doing during our paranoid retreat. Throughout human space, quantum shrouds fell away, revealing vast armadas of ships that had never appeared on assembly sensors. The Sentinel-class vessels, led by the Defiant, moved into attack position. The Lazarus system came fully online, its quantum predictive algorithms already calculating optimal battle strategies. On the assembly capital station, alarms blared as new contacts appeared on their sensors. Hundreds, then thousands of ships, all bearing human markings but unlike any human vessels they'd previously encountered. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Force," her voice cut through the chaos of the Assembly's command center. "We stand ready to assist. Please transmit tactical control of your remaining defense systems to our Lazarus network." High Chancellor Vextal stared at the tactical display, watching the human fleet take up defensive positions around key assembly worlds. The ships moved with unnatural coordination, their formations shifting in ways that suggested an intelligence far beyond normal tactical computers. "They'd been preparing for this all along," Krill whispered, their tentacles now pale with shock. "While we mocked their warnings. Give them what they want," Vextal ordered, their bioluminescence pulsing with determination. "Give them everything. Let's see what humanity has been building in the dark." As the assembly systems interfaced with the Lazarus network, the true scale of human preparation became clear. Each ship was a testament to what humanity could achieve when freed from the assembly's restrictions: quantum-locked hulls, dark matter drives, and AI systems that could predict and counter the collective's seemingly impossible attacks. The battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity was ready. Unexpected defenders, the first clash between human forces and the quantum collective, unfolded like a dance choreographed across dimensions. As the collective's massive ships moved to envelope an assembly colony world, the RSS Defiant and its battle group emerged from quantum space at precisely calculated points. "Multiple quantum breach attempts detected," reported Lieutenant Maya Patel, her fingers dancing across the neural interface. "They're trying to destabilize our space-time pocket." Commander Sarah Chen watched as the Lazarus system's predictions played out exactly as projected. Initiate Counter Protocol Omega. Let's show them they're not the only ones who understand quantum mechanics. The human ships moved in perfect synchronization, their quantum-locked hulls generating interference patterns that disrupted the collective's attempts to warp space-time. For the first time since their arrival, the invaders' weapons found targets that didn't crumble. Aboard the assembly capital station, military leaders watched in stunned silence as the tactical display showed human vessels engaging the collective in ways that defied conventional physics. Each human ship seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, making them nearly impossible to target. "This is impossible," General Tax muttered, watching as human vessels appeared to phase through solid matter. "Their technology, it's beyond anything we've seen." "Not impossible," corrected Dr. Elena Rossi, who had arrived with a human technical team. "Just unrestricted by conventional thinking." While the assembly focused on incremental improvements to existing technology, we explored quantum physics without limitations. The Lazarus system's quantum processors analyzed every aspect of the battle in real time, predicting the collective's moves before they made them. Each human ship carried a quantum-entangled node of the AI network, allowing for instant coordination across vast distances. On the collective's command ship, Archon Nexus faced something it had never encountered in countless harvested realities: uncertainty. The primitives it had dismissed were fighting with technologies that rivaled its own, using strategies that seemed to anticipate its every move. "Your species continues to surprise us." The Archon's voice resonated across quantum frequencies. "Perhaps we should discuss terms." "You mean like the terms you offered the assembly colonies you harvested?" Sarah's reply carried a sharp edge. "We've seen what happens to civilizations that negotiate with quantum harvesters." The battle intensified as the collective realized diplomacy wouldn't work. Their ships began executing increasingly desperate maneuvers, trying to break the human formation. But for every tactic they attempted, the Lazarus system had already calculated a counter. Deep within the Defiant, the ship's quantum core pulsed with energy as it executed another precisely calculated jump. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each vessel knowing its exact role in the complex battle plan. Years of preparation were paying off in ways even humanity hadn't fully anticipated. "Sir," Maya called out, "the collective is attempting to open a mass quantum tunnel. Energy readings suggest they're trying to bring in reinforcements from another reality." Sarah smiled grimly. "Just as Lazarus predicted. Execute Operation Quantum Lock." Across the battlefield, human ships activated special devices they'd been carrying, quantum resonance generators designed specifically for this moment. As the collective's tunnel began to form, the generators fired in perfect sequence, their energy waves combining to create a phenomenon never before seen in this reality. The tunnel collapsed in on itself, the backlash sending ripples of quantum energy through the collective's fleet. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before found themselves trapped in local pockets of altered spacetime, their advanced technology working against them. "By the ancestors," breathed Ambassador Krill, watching from the assembly station. "They've trapped them between dimensions." Admiral Rivera's hologram appeared in the assembly command center. The collective made a fundamental mistake in their calculations. They assumed that because we were younger, we were less advanced. They never considered that our different perspective might lead to innovations they hadn't imagined. The battle continued across multiple star systems, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The collective's remaining ships found themselves caught in an ever-tightening net of quantum-locked space, their attempts to escape thwarted by technology specifically designed to counter their abilities. In a final, desperate move, Archon Nexus ordered its flagship to attempt a reality jump that would have torn apart the local space-time continuum. But the human fleet was ready for this too. Hundreds of ships fired their quantum resonance generators simultaneously, creating a cascade effect that the Lazarus system had predicted would be necessary. The massive collective vessel froze in mid-jump, caught between realities. Its crystalline surface began to crack as conflicting quantum states tore at its structure. "Your civilization has achieved something unprecedented," Arction Nexus transmitted, its voice showing emotion for the first time, respect tinged with fear. "You saw us coming. You prepared. You understood." "We did more than that," Sarah replied, watching as the flagship began to disintegrate. "We learned from every species we encountered, even those who dismissed us. The Assembly's caution taught us patience. Their dismissal gave us freedom to develop without interference. And now," the collected flagship shattered, its fragments dispersing across multiple dimensions. Across the battlefield, the remaining collective vessels found themselves trapped and outmaneuvered by an enemy they had fatally underestimated. As the Assembly leadership watched their seemingly invincible enemy being systematically dismantled, many felt a deep shift in their understanding of the species they had so recently dismissed. Humanity hadn't just developed advanced technology. They had fundamentally changed the rules of what was possible. The galaxy would never be the same. A new understanding. 1 month after the defeat of the Quantum Collective, the Galactic Assembly Chamber looked markedly different. The once pristine walls still bore scars from the battle, left unrepaired as a reminder of how close they had come to annihilation. At the center of the chamber, where the High Chancellor's podium had stood for millennia, now sat a circular table, a human suggestion that had been readily accepted. Commander Sarah Chen, now serving as humanity's new ambassador, sat among the Assembly leadership, no longer relegated to the outer ring reserved for younger species. The change in seating arrangement was more than symbolic. It represented a fundamental shift in how the galaxy viewed human civilization. "The reconstruction of the outer colonies is proceeding ahead of schedule," reported Ambassador Krill, their tentacles moving with newfound respect when addressing the human representative. "The quantum technology provided by humanity has allowed us to rebuild in ways we never thought possible." High Chancellor Vextel's bioluminescence pulsed with agreement. Which brings us to the primary topic of today's session. The Assembly's relationship with humanity must be redefined. "We can no longer pretend to be your mentors when you have surpassed us in so many ways." Sarah looked around the chamber, remembering her last appearance here months ago. "With respect, Chancellor, humanity doesn't seek to dominate or lead. We've learned that true strength comes from cooperation, not competition. Each species here has something unique to offer. Yet you achieved in secret what we could not achieve in millennia," General Tax interjected. "Your quantum technologies, the Lazarus system, they're beyond anything in our archives." "Because we approached problems differently," Sarah explained. "While the Assembly sought to maintain stability by controlling technological development, humanity embraced uncertainty. We saw threats as opportunities to innovate." Dr. Elena Rossi, now heading the new Interspecies Technology Exchange, stepped forward. "The Quantum Collective taught us all a valuable lesson. The galaxy is larger and more dangerous than any of us imagined. We survived because humanity prepared for the worst while hoping for the best." The Assembly members murmured in agreement. The recent crisis had shattered countless assumptions about their place in the universe. "Which is why," Vextal announced, "the Assembly proposes a new structure. No longer will we divide species by age or technological advancement. Instead, we will create collaborative councils where different perspectives can combine to create stronger solutions." Sarah smiled slightly. "Humanity accepts with one condition. The knowledge we developed must be shared responsibly, not restricted by bureaucracy. The next threat might be worse than the collective. We need every species contributing their unique insights." Throughout the chamber, representatives nodded. The old way of doing things, the rigid hierarchies and dismissal of younger species, had nearly led to their destruction. Admiral Rivera's hologram appeared at the table. "Already, we're seeing benefits from this approach. The integration of Assembly biotechnology with our quantum systems has opened new possibilities we never considered. The Lazarus system is evolving in ways we hadn't predicted. And yet," Sarah added, "we maintain our vigilance. Humanity's withdrawal taught us the value of independence within unity. Each species must be free to develop while contributing to the greater whole. As if to emphasize her point, a signal came through on the quantum network. Another anomaly had been detected at the edge of known space, different from the collective, but equally mysterious. The galaxy is changing, Sarah observed, watching the data stream in. The question is no longer whether we're ready for new challenges, but how we face them together. The assembly members turned to the tactical display, watching as human and assembly ships moved in formation to investigate the anomaly. The fleet represented a perfect fusion of different technologies and strategies. Assembly bioships enhanced with quantum drives, human vessels incorporating alien biotechnology. Perhaps, High Chancellor Vextol mused, their colors shifting thoughtfully. This was the true test. Not whether we could defeat the collective, but whether we could learn from the experience. Sarah stood, looking out at the stars visible through the chamber's windows. Somewhere out there, new challenges waited. But this time, humanity wouldn't face them alone, and the assembly wouldn't face them blind. "We withdrew from the assembly because you wouldn't listen," she said quietly. "We return now, not as supplicants or leaders, but as equals. Each species brings their own wisdom, their own strengths. Together, we're stronger than we ever could be apart." The chamber fell silent as her words sank in. The galaxy had entered a new era, one shaped by the recognition that true advancement came not from age or tradition, but from the willingness to learn, adapt, and grow. As the new assembly adjourned its first session, Sarah received a private message from Admiral Rivera. "The quantum anomaly is growing. Ready to face it together this time." She smiled, sending back a simple reply. "Together, the way it always should have been." The stars waited, full of both promise and peril. But this time, when the next challenge came, the galaxy would face it as one, wiser for their past mistakes, stronger for their shared victories, and ready for whatever the universe had in store. The age of isolation was over. The age of true cooperation had begun.